What are you looking at me for?
Hello, everyone. It appears we have internet in Jackson, so we have our quorum and we're ready to go. All right, for the moment, right, Jay? Okay. I'll call the meeting to order. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from January 6th and 22nd.
So moved.
Motion by Dave, seconded by Jay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Department staffing request, staffing pattern changes. We are looking for backfills in their probation department.
We do have, yes.
I was going to call you, Danielle. I just couldn't find you on the screen.
I'm right next to you. So probation does have 3 backfill requests. The first one is a probation supervisor 1. The last person in the position was at $66,314.88. The new person will be at $61,157.52. It is a 40-hour-a-week position, and the position was vacant as of January 4th due to the retirement of the director.
So all 3 of the issues in the probation department are a cascade. There's no additional person in the staffing pattern. It's just that one person moved up, the next person moved up, the next person's going to move up. So there's no change in the budget, no change in the staffing pattern.
Right. So that was the probation 1 supervisor was the first one.
Gotcha. So entertain a motion to fill the probation supervisor 1. Don Ward, seconded by David. Discussion. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then go ahead, Danielle, we'll just cascade the next 2.
Okay, the next one is probation officer 2. It's a senior probation officer. The rate of pay was $57,849.60 from the last person in the position, and it'll be $56,522.16. Again, it is a 40-hour-a-week position.
All right, entertain a motion to backfill this officer, moved by David, seconded by Don Ward. You were waving at Brian. I assume you weren't making a motion.
Sorry, I saw that in the video.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And the last one, Danielle.
And the last one is a probation officer trainee. Right now, the trainee rate is actually below what the probation officers are because the trainee is a grade 14. The probation officers make grade 15. The trainee would then go to a 15 once they make that trainee period. Again, it's a 40-hour-a-week position, and due to the cascading effect, they want to fill that.
Okay. Motion by Dave, second by Don Ward. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We good, Dan? Does that cover what we needed to do today?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, good. I'm glad we got it all straight there. All right. Danielle, ready to move on to the sheriff?
Yes, the sheriff is asking for a new position. It would be a lieutenant position. It is based on the Washington County Sheriff's Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Plan. The base rate is $35.35 an hour, and it would be a 40-hour-a-week position. And this would also be a staffing pattern change, adding a 3rd lieutenant to that.
So currently we have 2 lieutenants in the staffing pattern. This would, starting soon, adding a 3rd lieutenant to the staffing pattern.
Yes.
And Don, this was all vetted out through your public safety committee, correct? Regarding the new program that the sheriff has with the state?
Correct. This would be the person who does the Office of Professional Responsibility and oversees the training, the reform, everything that Sheriff put together for Executive Order 203 reinvention planning.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's start with a motion. Don, all right, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Brian, second. Okay, discussion? Oh, David?
So the cost of this position is about $100,000. It's about $72,800 in salary, and Fringe is gonna take another $30,000. Where are we gonna get the money from this?
I can give you my opinion, though it may not be accurate. So it's my understanding that this will also be a cascading effect. There is currently a lieutenant position in the staffing pattern that's not filled. So there'll be breakage there, right?
Yes.
And when this cascades down, whether an investigator moves to lieutenant and then a deputy will move to investigator, and then we'll hire a new deputy. So there's only one change in the staffing pattern, but there'll be breakage in each one of those three
Because there's movement.
positions as there's movement. Now,
Savings is based on the last deputy going to training on August 26th.
right, so as I recall, do we have the sheriff on? I don't see where we have the sheriff. I believe we won't be adding the deputy until sometime in August when they're through training.
Or when they can start training again.
And it was my understanding, and I could be wrong on this, that we will now have two lieutenant positions we will fill, one currently in the staffing pattern, one we're adding to the staffing pattern. One would start in March and one would start in May. And I think the breakage over those three items, we will have to quantify and get back to you at finance about what that number is. But that's what's being used to offset the new position. As you said, it would be 100,000.
There he is.
And
Sheriff's on.
it'll be closer to like probably 70 over the course of the rest of the year. Mr. Henke?
Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like I'm speaking against this position because I frankly can't believe we haven't had a Officer of Professional Standards lieutenant over there up to this point. I really think it's a necessary thing to have. However, I still want to point out that the breakage only is going to work for this year. Next year, next budget is going to be a direct cost.
Correct.
It is.
Correct.
This is a refunding of police.
Sheriff,
It's added cost.
was I correct that we're adding a person to the staffing pattern now, that's what we're talking about first. But as far as the people are concerned, you'll probably fill one of the lieutenant spots in March, one in May, and then a deputy in August. Is that the time frame we talked about? I'm just trying to, am I close?
Yeah.
Okay. So those three things, the breakage on those three things, which we do not have a number on yet, that we hope to have for finance?
Well, we have
For 2021.
We have preliminary figures that for this year, this breakage close to $18,000. That's only on the point ones. There would also be breakage on the bennies in all those places that were empty. So I don't have the breakage on that to give you the total picture, but hopefully by finance, we can get all that.
Okay, so there will be a cost, but it won't be the full.
Well, we don't know that till we find out how much breakage was in all those other lines.
Okay. But it is for 2021. David's point is for 2021, it could be X, but for 2022, we know it's the full shot.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Henke was right. We're going to refund the police.
I'll refund the police.
And what else, what are we gonna defund to pay for it there?
Other comments and questions? Dan?
There. Do the lieutenants all have their own offices? So do we have enough space if we add these officers, a lieutenant over there? And how does that work when you create a position like this?
If we did make a new office, we have the space inside the building to do that. We could either use an existing room, or if we could put up a couple of walls to do that within the administration.
Okay. Well, I mean, when you create a new position like that, and eventually there's going to be another person on the staffing pattern, and I just didn't, there's a ripple effect to the cost besides just the wages. And I didn't know, like, is it going to add another vehicle to the carpool when you create a position like this just looking for all the hidden costs. I'm not opposed to it either. I'm just trying to make sure we're all aware of what we're getting into.
Yeah, I believe we're set with the vehicle as well.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Other questions? Of course, this gets moved to the full board and we'll vote on it on the 19th, but we're hoping that we can have an answer for you on Thursday about the approximate 2021 cost, though it is true, it'll be a significant 2022 cost. Any other comments or questions? Sue?
Is there other areas in the department that could be reduced to make up for this position that could be looked at? Sheriff Murphy?
No. Like I said, we've gone a year without a lieutenant and a year without a sergeant because we didn't have enough people to fill those positions. So last year, like we never paid the lieutenant salary for a whole year or the sergeant salary for a whole year. This year we have 3 deputies coming out of the academy. They're actually getting their certificates tomorrow. So we have the bodies to fill those positions to be able to do this. So every year there's a change in staffing. Sometimes people retire halfway through the year. We're not able to fill that position for the rest of the year. So, and we do anticipate this year a sergeant retiring in the summer. So, things go back and forth. So, it's hard to tell.
Thank you.
We lost you, Matt. Or at least I did.
Yeah, I can hear you, Jay. I can't hear Matt.
I didn't touch it. I swear to God, Sandy. I swear to God, I didn't touch it. One of you guys did.
I wonder if it's over.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes over here.
It wasn't me.
Okay.
Just say that,
All right, we're good now, right? All right. Danielle, do we have any other staffing pattern issues to deal with?
There are no other ones for the sheriff.
Okay. I think there's one discussion point we're gonna have regarding DSS and IT, right, Jim?
Yes.
That we're gonna do afterwards?
Yep.
Okay, so we can move on to other business? Danielle, other business, we're good?
Yes, yep.
Okay, personnel officer vacancy. Obviously, we know we have a personnel officer vacancy at the moment. And we talked about this and we decided we're gonna make a decision today on how we're gonna move forward. Basically, the 2 options are, we need to fill that position. We have 2 internal candidates. And again, we're gonna talk about positions today. We have 2 internal candidates who are interested in the position. We can interview those 2 candidates, make a decision. If we feel comfortable with one, we can move forward. If we don't feel comfortable with either, we can open it up and do a full search. Or B, we can start a full search now, advertise, go 30 days, get other candidates, and then interview our internal candidates plus any external candidates. I'm looking for feedback from the committee on which way they would rather go. Does anybody have any feelings one way or the other?
Start with option A.
So Jay's talking about option A. David?
We've also, excuse me, we have made a precedent of going out for a search, even if we had internal candidates. I mean, do we want to change that procedure or process, or should we stick with it? We did it with probation, even though we had one internal candidate who was qualified. Should we do it with our other department heads also? I mean, we should standardize how we make these hiring decisions.
True. I agree with you to a point, except for the fact that people like the Department of Probation Director and Personnel Officer are state sort of mandated, and overall the the qualifications are dictated by the state as opposed to DPW superintendent, which we can hire anybody we want kind of thing. So they're all a little different. They're all a little, there's hybrids all over the place. But I'm open and I'd like to get input from the committee on what they think. Brian, Jim, anybody?
I agree with Dave, where we have a precedent, you know, at least it shows that we're being consistent.
Okay. Anybody else on the call?
I think both our internal candidates are good, but I guess that's no reason to not see what,
Right.
What's out there.
Right.
Okay.
Well, to make sure I understand, this isn't anything against internal candidates. I just think we should have a policy and stick with it, even though that probation officer had requirements from the state, even more specific than the personnel officer. We still did that to go out, so.
And there are specific qualifications for the personnel officer also. So when we advertise, we may have been in the same position as the probation director. We have no qualified candidates. And we're back where we're square one, but at least we've investigated. So, Melissa?
I just wanted to clarify, the personnel position, yes, it's a state mandated position. There are some qualifications that are state mandated, like the personnel officer has to reside in Washington County. There's no way getting around that. The only thing I do want to mention is it is a civil service non-competitive position where your probation director was competitive and had to be tested. So this is non-competitive. The minimum qualifications are up to the county, up to you as the supervisors, if we wanted to revisit that before we advertised, or if we want to just go ahead and advertise as it was before. We can do either.
Correct. Do I get an idea? There's a somewhat of a consensus. Oh, Dan Shaw.
Yeah, are supervisors not on the committee allowed to post comments on this matter?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Well, you kept asking for committee member opinion, so I wanted to kind of not say anything unless they were all done talking. I myself don't think it's necessary to advertise, go out and advertise. The two reasons I have, number one is if you promote from within, especially from within Washington County, they know the personalities of who they're going to be administering their job for. And I think that personnel director would be an excellent reason not to go out and advertise, to have to relearn all that. And secondly, I commented about setting precedents one other time, and I think it was even you, Matt, that said that we can do what we want to do. And that's where I'm at. I think it's good to stay in-house for this particular position, and that's my thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Anybody else? Oh, Bob.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that when you go out and advertise and stuff, there is quite a cost in terms of personnel time. I think Matt and I really realize that. You know, I'm probably a little more sensitive to it right now than maybe some of the others because we've gone through it a couple of times here. There's a lot of time, a lot of effort that's goes into looking outside. And the past two times we've looked outside, we've taken an internal candidate anyway.
How many candidates did you get the last two times when we went out?
For which position? Well, for probation director, we got just one internal candidate.
Right.
For administrator, we got 54 applicants.
I expect with the personnel officer, you're expecting to get quite a bit of applicants as well.
It's possible. It's very possible.
Yeah.
It's very possible. And the only other thing that I'll throw out there, though it isn't really that critical, is that if we go with option A, we could set up interviews and do them next week and move this along pretty quickly. If it's option B, we'd advertise, we'd probably let it go for at least 30 days. We're probably a couple of months out there. So, but again, I hate to bring it down to the fact where we actually vote on this, but if I can't get a consensus, we should probably, Sam?
Yeah, Melissa, could I just ask you to repeat what you had said earlier about the positions?
As far as the personnel officer being civil service non-competitive?
Right.
that the part? Yeah, so the probation director was a tested civil service position. The state mandated what the minimum qualifications have to be for
Okay.
probation director. Personnel officer is non-competitive, so there is no civil service exam given. The qualified candidate just needs to meet the minimum qualifications of the position. And
Okay.
those minimum
So-
qualifications are actually chosen by the board.
So I guess my comment was going to be, and I want to make sure I understood that, because that's the way I heard it the first time, was what we did was we set a policy for those that were going to be in the category that the probation officer was in based on that status. We haven't done one on the others to set a policy on how we were going to do that yet. So I know we said we came with a policy and we did it, but we did that because it was based on the status of being civil service, non-civil service, whatever that was. So I'm just saying there's flexibility there because we did it once doesn't mean we set a policy for it because it's a different type of employee.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Dave?
We did it with county administrator.
True.
So we did set precedent for what we did the county administrator.
Sue,
Okay.
did you have a comment? Sue? Okay.
Listening. Thank you.
All right, well, I'm sorry. I'm not sure I can come up with a consensus on which way to go on this, to be honest with you. And I hate to bring it to the point where we need to vote on it to make a decision, but I guess we need to make it some kind of decision today so we can move forward one way or the other. So
One question,
Yeah.
Matt.
Sure, Jay.
Are we under any time constraint here like we were with probation or anything like that? Are we?
Well, having Melissa 3 doors down the hall from the existing acting director, I would say probably not.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I don't know, Melissa, do you feel that we're under a time constraint?
The difference between the personnel officer and the probation director, Mr. Scully is correct. The state told us that someone has to be in that position. It couldn't be vacant for any amount of time. Personnel officer, as long as we gave those duties to someone on an interim basis, like we did with Danielle, we're okay. They're not telling us that, we have to pick somebody a permanent appointment within the next week or two. The only thing, I'm a little sensitive to is we want to make sure that we don't have the person that's currently filling in a long-term basis because there's no compensation for those duties that have been taken on.
Gotcha. Brian?
Melissa, are our 2 internal candidates, are they both qualified?
Yes, both are currently working in the Civil Service Personnel Office, so both would be qualified for the position.
Would you expect, I don't know, there's a certain amount you have to be qualified. Is there people that would be overqualified from the outside and qualified, or I guess is there a bigger ceiling by going outside or no? If there's not, there's no point in going out.
I think if we
You're saying-
advertise, we will get a fair amount of applicants. Whether or not those applicants can bring more to the table than an internal candidate who, currently works for Washington County. The one thing about working in the personnel office is you're pretty familiar with the county policies, the handbooks, the union contracts. There's knowledge there that somebody coming from the outside, it would take them quite a while to catch on to that. So there is definitely some benefits from getting an internal candidate if it's the right person.
Okay, so now I'm in a position where I need to split the baby, so to speak. So how about if I offer this as a possible solution? Well, I'm not sure it's a possible solution. I was going to say, we interviewed the 2 internal candidates, and if we don't feel either one is who we're looking for, we then go search. No? That is
No, I think Melissa, did a good job explaining it there. That was the question. That was what I was gonna, reference to Brian. Are we gonna find somebody better out there? Or are we spending too much time? If we have 2 qualified candidates in house, then there's I motion that we just interview the two candidates in-house.
Okay, so we have a motion from Jim.
I'll second that.
Okay, a second from Brian. I have Sue and Don's hands up. I'm not sure if they're commenting or seconding.
Seconding.
Seconding, okay. Don?
Second.
Second, okay. So we have a second on the motions. Discussion. Okay, maybe there's consensus. All in favor? Okay. Opposed? Carried. So we'll work with Melissa to set up a couple of interviews in relatively short time, right, Melissa? We can move this along, can't we?
Sure.
And then
Yes.
see if we can make it happen. So watch your emails. I'll talk to Debbie to see when we can schedule things. All right, thank you very much. Danielle, vacation rollovers.
And mute here for a second. So we wanted to talk about a resolution that was passed with the unused vacation and personal time due to COVID. It began on March 18th of 2020 when the facility was closed, and vacation and personal time was carried over. Whoever had their anniversary date, they were able to carry over their vacation time until their next anniversary date. So by March, it would be a full year that this would have occurred. So we just wanted to bring it to your attention to see if you wanted to discuss, if you wanted to keep it going forward or not.
Do I understand that if we discontinued it on March 18th, then it would have been for 1 year exactly, and everyone would have had the same opportunities, where if we continue it past March 18th, we could potentially change it so that some would and some wouldn't get it. Is that
Right, yes.
someone? Okay, Brian, do you have a comment?
That's kind of where I was going. I think.
Can you explain it better? I didn't really do a good job.
No, I think you did explain it good, that some people would get it twice if you went to a day after that wasn't a full year
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
So ending it on the year and then it brings it to a finality. The problem is if you go a whole other year, the amount of time adds way up and you can't even find opportunities to give these people vacation time because there's so much time and there's so much work to be done. So I think ending it at the year, and I think there's still in the handbook, and someone can correct me because I won't get it right, I think there is a way if a person wasn't able to take it, your department head can bring it to get a certain extension, and someone would have to remind me what that actual line.
Melissa's nodding her head. We're going to rely on her.
Melissa's in unison.
Well, I don't have the actual verbiage in front of me, but yes, the department head can bring the request up. If it's anything 5 days or less, the personnel officer or the county administrator can approve it. If it's more than that, it needs to go to committee.
And would it be accurate to say that if we did end it on the 18th, that may spur some people who have accumulated a lot of vacation, maybe to take some vacation that they actually need because they haven't had time off in a year? Or is that not really the use it or lose it?
If we were to end it on March 17th, that would be 1 full year. I think, like Brian mentioned, the concern is that some of the balances are getting very high because people just think it's going to keep rolling over. The concern there is if someone were to leave employment, the county needs to pay that vacation time out to employees. Those funds wouldn't be budgeted for because we wouldn't expect that. And then, of course, also like Brian mentioned, if they have that much time on the books, it makes it very difficult for the department heads to manage and grant that time off when you have so many employees with those kind of balances. So my recommendation would be that, after 1 year, we end it. I think it's been a great benefit to the employees. I think a lot of people are very grateful to the supervisors for allowing it, but I kind of think it would be helpful now if it did come to an end.
I'll move it.
We have a motion by Brian. Do I have a second? Don Ward. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Looks like it's carried. Retirement, Danielle.
Yes, we have had retirements in December, January, and actually, sorry, November. They will be announced at the board meeting on the 19th. We did notify each of the retirees that they could receive the slate plaque that we have for them. They would just schedule an appointment with us and to pick those up in the personnel department. And also those names will be announced at the board meeting on Friday, the 19th.
Great. Clip purchases.
Okay, so every year, we bring this to the committee on clip purchases. It's a blanket approval, for the items that we purchase for clip in the wellness fair throughout the year. It's up to the amount that is budgeted for 2021. Also, this is not taxpayer dollars. It is a part of the health insurance premium. So it has been done, I believe, in the past 3 years that we've asked for this approval.
And do we know how much we're talking about?
The budget is for 14,000.
Do we usually spend all of it?
No,
No, just a portion of it.
right.
Okay. So you're looking for a motion to approve moving forward with the clip purchases that are in their budget?
Yes.
Okay. And you're going to remind us what CLIP stands for one more time.
County Lifestyle Improvement Program.
There we go. David moved it. Do I have a second? Sue? Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Carried. Danielle, I had one more thing. Do you have anything else on the agenda?
That was all that I had.
Okay. We do have an issue regarding a personnel matter that's a little bit time sensitive that did not come through one of the committees, but is going to come through one of the other committees. So I don't know, Debbie, if we talked to you about this, but we'd like to not adjourn, but recess and pick it up after the IT meeting because it deals with an IT personnel issue. So we would recess, open IT, have the IT meeting, come back into personnel and act on what came out of IT. Can we do that?
Do that. I think you could stay in session too and,
Have a joint session.
Have a joint session.
well, you really wouldn't be participating. I mean, you could have it, could be joined at that point, or if you didn't get involved in it at that point as personnel committee.
Okay.
It's up to you, or we can recess and reconvene.
Well, why don't, can I just declare a recess? Or do I have to get a motion?
Oh, no, I think you can just declare.
All right, I'm going to declare a recess in the personnel committee and to pick it up at the very end of the adjournment of IT. Okay? So you want to come up here, Jim? You want to stay there?
I'll stay here.
Okay.
I don't want your germs.
All right. I wore my mask. It's all yours.
It's not your mask.
Maybe we'll adjourn now. You just went out.
Yeah, we have a forum for IT, I believe.
I believe so, yeah.
And I don't have, Sandy, do you have a memo for the IT?
You looking for a agenda?
Yeah, agenda. It wasn't, the email was empty. Thought it was in there, but.
Don't come up here. Go bring your germs up
That
here.
one for me.
Okay.
When Brian has his face mask on, he looks like he's part of the halftime show.
I was. What are you talking about?
Are we good, Deb?
Yes, we're
Okay.
good.
I'd like to call the IT meeting, February 9th IT meeting to order, 2:34. First order of business to accept the minutes from the January 6th meeting. Motion to accept those minutes. Motion by Sue, second by Dan. All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Roger, County Attorney, go right ahead with your cybersecurity report. Should have been in your email yesterday.
Hopefully, everybody can hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, so the report that you got should have showed you that through November, December, and January that our potential incidents and ticketed incidents actually went down quite significantly from November. But remember, we talked about why November was so large to begin with. The other two are more in line with our normal months. And I suspect it was because, based on my view of the back parking lot here, a lot of people were taking some time off during December and January, and that's why our traffic was down a little bit. Our monthly statistic of interest is kind of interesting, to repeat the term. There were 262 attempts to log into one of our email accounts from various locations outside the United States during the month of January. And I'm told that can happen because an email address gets, trips across the site and then gets passed around. Nothing nefarious happened from it. No penetration was made, but it shows you that there's a lot of people out there still trying to crack into our system through various means and mechanisms, and that we still have to be vigilant. I myself got a fake invoice, as did apparently several other people, yesterday, I think it was, sending me an invoice that I was supposed to pay. And this one was not just a fake invoice, but apparently when you clicked on it, it took you to a malware site. So it wasn't just an attempt to have you pay a bill you didn't know. It was an attempt to have you click on it and then take you off to a site that would have inserted malware. We've also had some of our partner agencies compromised through things that didn't really affect us, except for some of our people getting the emails. But I guess the moral of today's story, or this month's story, is don't buy anybody gift cards if they ask you to via an email, ever. That goes for people in the outside world as well. Just they probably do better having you just send a check at this point in time if they're trying to scam you. But gift cards are probably the number one indicator that something's going on here that you probably should call the person and ask them about before you go ahead and just do that, especially if it's somebody that you know. These things are very sophisticated. One of my friends a few years ago was stationed in Germany, and I got a really in-depth description allegedly from him, telling me about how he was in Scotland, had been detained, and police send him money because he'd had all these misfortunes befall him. And it was very plausible that he could have been in that part of Europe since he was stationed over there. But I sent him an email saying, "How's Scotland?" And he sent me an email back going, "Never seen it." So verify these things before you go ahead and take steps. And they rely on that sense of urgency. They rely on that sense of, I've got to help this person and to get you through. So if you can take some time and verify those kind of things, and just please don't buy any gift cards. This goes down to our newsletter that we send out to our employees. I've talked to Karen about maybe increasing the circulation, so to speak, of that newsletter. So if anybody at the town wants to be included in that, or have their town employees included in that email newsletter that she sends out occasionally on cybersecurity, please let her know, and she'd be happy to add you to the list. It's just a mailing list of things that we send out. We're not going out to senior centers and places like that anymore to talk due to COVID, but certainly if you have a senior organization that would like to read it and pass it around, it's something that works not just for our employees, but for anybody. And I think she'd be happy to put them on the list too, if somebody else would like to have that sent. So that's basically I'm not going to use the Q word because that's not a good word to use in our line of work, but things have been fairly good this month, and that's pretty much the cybersecurity report for this month.
Thank you very much, Roger. Any questions for Roger? All right, very good. And I see Terry's right there. Thank you. Going on into information technology and DSS. Do we have to go into executive session for this position to discuss this, or?
No, I don't think there's executive session needed.
Okay. Awesome. So
If it's all right with you, maybe we'll cover some of the other business first, and then I'll do the social services last, if that's okay.
Okay.
Because we don't have a lot of this to go through. So if you don't mind, I'd like to just piggyback on a little bit what Roger said with the gift cards and those type of emails. And just say, if you guys ever get anything like that, a request for gift cards, a request to transfer money, any of those things, just pick up the phone and call call whoever it is, because a lot of times I've seen it in my previous life where somebody in your office, their email accounts can get hacked, and the person that hacked them is watching the emails and responding to you. So you could send them an email and say, hey, did you send this? Yes, I sent this. Send the money. You do it now. And you do, but actually it wasn't them that was responding. The email account was compromised, and it was the compromiser, the hacker, that actually did it. So I just put that out there and say, pick up the phone like the old days, because that's the one way to be sure that you really are getting the true story. So if it's okay, I'll start with the project list. That should have been emailed to everybody. So you should have that along with Roger's report.
Yep.
Okay. We did complete one of the phases of the firewall project, so that is done. We have been moving forward quickly with the replacement of all of the routers and network equipment in the DPW. So that at this point is close to halfway done from them being out on site again today, getting another barn taken care of. The gas project is also almost complete. We're in the final stages of that, where the vendor is working with the software, but everything is in place. All the hardware is, things up, and the servers are up. So that's just some of the highlights for the project list. Does anybody have any questions on that?
No, you're good, Terry.
So I'd like to move on from there to the soft phone, which is actually one of the projects. But what I wanted, when we first initially discussed the soft phone and put it through last year, we did just an initial pack of licensing, not really knowing who all was going to need it, but we knew we were going to need additional licenses. So we do have final numbers and final counts on the additional licenses and additional cost to finish up this project. So what this entails is going to be licensing, in addition to that, some IP phones. So it's a little bit of a big picture conversation. That's part of the reason I wanted to bring this forward. And then at the end of the big picture conversation, I will ask for some money to be transferred out of our new IT reserve fund to cover the cost. So essentially what we're looking at when you talk about the phone system for the county is the phone system itself will need to be replaced within the next few years, because we have a lot of analog and digital phones that are still out there. Rather than doing it all in one huge bulk in the next few years, the right way to do this, in my opinion, is to start replacing the analog and digital phones, the old style phones, with IP phones over the next couple of years. When you talk about the soft phone licenses, we have a couple of options. One of those options is to try to Band-Aid the system, if you will, and take the people who are on digital and analog phones, which are the bulk of the users in the county, and try to make the soft phone solution work for them. It does work, but it's a lot of work, labor, and it will be very wonky, for lack of a better term. The other option is to replace those users, which is approximately 150 users that have requested the soft phone license, with IP phones now, and to go ahead and get them out of the way, which will help in the big picture to move us forward into the next couple of years. And within the next couple of years, get all of the phones replaced. So that's what I'm going to propose. So we have a couple of costs. One is going to be the licensing, and then 150 phones to replace as well. So the total cost of the project, or money that I'd like to request be moved to finance so that we can transfer the finance committee, so we can transfer the money, is $27,000. Anybody have questions on that, or would like some more detail, or?
Who's got questions? There you go, Dan.
Wait just a minute.
You're off mute, Dan. Go ahead.
I'm on?
You're on, yep.
It amazes me every time when I think I'm off, I'm on, and when I'm on, I'm off. But the 27,000, if we transfer, is that going to impact or change any other plans that you had made for the IT capital plan?
No, actually, that was one of the things that I was hoping to be able to use it for. So I think that was really the intent of that plan.
Good. So that fits right in your plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I had.
Thanks, Dan. A question I had for Terry when we talked about this, Terry, you said there's about 600 lines, correct? Phone lines that will have to change?
Actually, 692 to be exact.
Yeah. So this takes care of about 20 to 25% of the initial. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion to approve this and send it to finance. So moved by Paul, second by Dan and Don. Any other dialogue? All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Carries.
Thank you.
That was easy, Terry.
So now I think we can move on to the discussion for social services. There's two different items in social services to bring forward or that were brought forward from the Health and Human Services Committee. One was for more clarification, if you folks have any questions on the state's proposal to increase the bandwidth for the Social Services Department. So social services is on a state connection that's very slow right now. We're looking at 10 meg connection to be precise, which is very difficult when you're in the world of video training and Zooming and doing any kind of video conferencing. It's very, very challenging, and they're having a lot of challenges down there. The state has come up with a cost to increase that connection to 100 meg. There's a one-time cost of $8,000, and then they're looking at a recurring cost of $24,000. I don't know if anyone does want to chime in. She's welcome to on any of this, but essentially, we've put back to them that we would not like to have to pay all of that, and we're hoping that that will change. But at this time, that is something I just wanted to bring it up and just make sure that everybody's aware of it. It's something we do need to do something with social services to help bring them forward in terms of their internet connection. I'm not sure all the final costs, so I don't think we need a resolution. Although I could be incorrect about that, I really just wanted to make sure people know and have an opportunity to ask questions about it if there are any.
Questions? Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, I want to ask Tammy where they believe that all of a sudden we should pay for something we've never paid for in the past when they're forcing us to be on their dedicated line.
Is that rhetorical?
Yes, but you can still answer it.
It's a question that we're asking statewide. And I don't feel like they have very good footing to force the issue with us. However, it's like half and half. Half the counties don't have an issue right now and the other half do. Some of the counties have paid for their own. Some of the bigger counties, of course, their portions will be a heck of a lot more. I think that in the short term, we would be best off to go ahead and do the one-time cost of having that switch completed, because we are able to claim the 75% funding on that. And the gross cost right now on that is just about $8,000. I would like for us to continue to push for the state to take over the recurring cost. To me, it appears that they're charging us for something that they will continue supposedly to support in the future. The fee isn't to go to, like, say, Verizon, for example. It appears that it's going back to the state. So I have asked that in a direct letter to the state. I had mentioned before through the New York Public Welfare Association that we are also trying as a statewide organization to engage the CIO from the state ITS office. We haven't gotten through that process yet, so I don't have an answer on how the rest of it's going to work.
Okay, I'll reach out to NISAC and see if we can push back on that, because this is going to involve a lot of counties.
Yes.
Go ahead, Sue.
Tammy, I can't imagine how your workforce down there is trying to deal with, the era of I got mail. Okay. It must just be so frustrating in the amount of labor hours that are used up in frustration. It could make a whole different department by being able to access in a reasonable way. So I don't think you have any other choice, honestly.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So do we need a motion to move forward with the 8,000 right now?
Probably.
Good idea, yes, I'd say.
Yeah, move to finance.
I got a motion, move to finance, Brian?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to move to finance.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Second? Second by Sue. And Don? Any other comments? All in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
And the last thing I have has to do with social services in terms of the IT technology positions down in social services. Back in history just a little bit, a couple of years ago when I started, one of the items I was tasked with is they had nobody down in social services doing IT. And we were, as an IT department, trying to fill in for them down there with a lot of difficulty. And I was tasked with looking at that department, the positions, and recommending what they really need going forward. As time's gone on, we were able to fill in the position, the computer coordinator position down in social services with an employee who's been out on leave for almost a year. It's been very challenging. And currently we have a member of the IT department down there that is filling in on a full-time basis. As we look through things, we think that it would be better to possibly look at that position. And we'd like to, trying to figure out the best way to word it. We'd like to look at amending the staffing pattern and adding a second full-time computer operations coordinator down in DSS, with a bigger picture being that you would then have 2 full-time DSS employees that are in the title of computer operations coordinator that can help each other, that can backfill each other so that people are able to function in a much better way. Currently, the employee we have down there is doing a great job, and we really appreciate all his efforts. And I would anticipate in the future that he would continue to work down there, but probably more on a not a full-time basis, maybe a half-time basis going forward once we have 2 full-time people in there to be able to provide support. But having the 2 full-time people in there would be the right way to go. Social services is a very specific, very unique case because they are a state system and the state limits how many admin accounts we are even allowed to have, even getting an admin account to be able to fill in. So say, for example, we had nobody in there for some reason and the IT department had to fill in, we'd be very limited on what items we'd be able to fill in on because it takes weeks, sometimes months to be able to get the proper approvals and accounts created to be able to actually assist them and provide the proper support. So, don't know if anybody has questions or if you have any other.
So there's currently one position down there in the staffing pattern, but that person who was in that position is on military leave and has been for quite some time.
Yes.
So they're basically, they have no one, but you've taken somebody from IT and lent them to DSS to get things done down there. In a perfect world, you'd bring that person back up into IT as much as you possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're suggesting that even in the event the person goes back from military leave, there's enough work down there for more than one person.
Yes, especially with the way that everything is going. I mean, everything is just so electronic now. And even, everything is electronic. So that's not a need that's going to change in the future.
Go ahead, Dave.
So Terry, we had this conversation back when we moved the person from IT down there. Would that person still be in your staffing pattern or in DSS staffing pattern?
So the position that we're requesting would be in the social services staffing pattern. So nothing would change from an IT perspective in my department.
Okay, because last time we did this, the conversation, I guess this was you, the conversations around, you keep them in an IT staffing pattern even though they worked in DSS so you can swap people in and out when necessary. So we're going to go from one position down there to 2 positions down there, or, yes. And then would they still be able to come up and help you out up there when they don't have to work in DSS?
I don't ever see a time when they don't have the work. There would be 2 full-time people in DSS that would always be busy. There's more than enough work for that. And quite honestly, they likely would still need support from IT for possibly half-time, not a full-time per se, but probably half-time with all the additional things that they would still need.
Okay.
Go ahead, Matt.
since they're in the DSS, is there a reimbursement issue from the state as being a DSS employee?
Yes.
There's not an issue, no. Currently, we actually reimburse Terry for the
No,
full-time.
I meant state reimbursement.
I know. I just want to share that we are also reimbursing for the IT time that is spent down here on a full-time basis right now. We have that set up through an MOU that we had to have approved with the state. I also, in looking at this, if we added in a second person here, I wanted to look back at that MOU and find out if I had any wording in there that would preclude us from then being able to continue to ask for the funding through, from IT. And there is not. So there is no restriction. It's open-ended for us to be able to claim from the state for our administrative staff. And we're able to add that back in or increase that. And we're also able to continue to offset the cost of the IT person being down here. If that drops back or falls back to a part-time situation, we'd need to modify the amount of money that we're being charged and that we're claiming then. But at this time, there is not anything from the state that tells us this is a closed pot of money and if you exceed it, you have to pay all county dollars. There's nothing like that with this category.
Melissa?
So the position is a computer operations coordinator. That's the title of the position that is actually being requested. The salary for that position is $55,582 a year. If you add benefits to that, it's around $81,000. With the state reimbursement of 75%, it brings the cost down to just over $20,000 for the year. In speaking with the commissioner earlier, we do have the person that currently holds that title in DSS who has been out 2 months, January, and it definitely will be out for the month of February. Possibly may return the end of March, but it's not very likely. So there's going to be some breakage there as well.
As well as the fact that we have budgeted for 8 positions that we are holding open right now.
Brian, you had another?
Yeah, so can we tie this together? If we go from 10 megs to 100 megs, is there 10 times the opportunity?
I don't know about that. Maybe 10 times the work, because then they'll have a whole lot more. They'll be able
Yeah.
So you're looking for a motion to move this to personnel?
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Matt. Second, Paul? Don? All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. All right, thank you very much, Terry.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
Any other business for the IT committee? All right, that being said, I'll motion to adjourn, and we'll head back to personnel.
So we'll, on recess, whatever the word is there. We reconvene. Thank you, Debbie. We reconvene personnel. So we have been moved from, I think, HHS and IT now, changing the staffing pattern to add that, whatever you described it, Melissa, computer operations specialist or whatever it is.
That's it. Yes.
Yep.
No, I'm sorry. Computer operations coordinator.
Right. And that's the staffing pattern. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, move it. Brian.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Jim. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. In the meantime, I have one more thing. As a suggestion, though we don't have to do it this way, what if we set up personnel interviews for next Wednesday, the 17th, after audit? Say one at 10 o'clock, one at 11 o'clock. I checked with the boss, who said it's okay if we wanted to do that. Does anybody have any conflicts or any issues? Since we're going to interview our 2 internal candidates, we can kind of move this along and just get it set up. There's time to notice the meeting.
Yes.
And anybody have any comments on they like that idea or don't like that idea? We got a big thumbs up from Don Ward. Anybody else? All right, so Debbie, I can just call a meeting for next. David, can we have audit done by,
The big audit.
it's a big audit?
Or, it's a big audit, we'll be done.
Well, you want to make it 10:30 and 11:15?
Well, do they come in?
Not yet.
They do come in for audit? Yeah, some of them might want time to get back.
How about if we make it for 10:30 and 11:15, the two interviews?
All right.
Everybody okay with that? And we'll send out a notice? Okay. Oh, Sue?
Those that are there at audit, can we stay there and Zoom? Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Melissa, you can let the two new candidates know that 10:15, or excuse me, 10:30, 11:15 next week. I'll let you flip a coin to decide who goes first.
Okay, I'll notify both candidates.
Okay, thank you. Now, is there anything else to come before the Personnel Committee? I guess not. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Jim, seconded by Dave. All in favor? Opposed, carried. See you on Thursday at Finance.
Just shut your Zoom off.